Hello? Is everything working? Hey, it's actually coming through. That's good, that's good. Look, I can see you guys down there. Hello, you're right there. How is the audio? Is the audio good? Or is the music too loud? That's the balance I want to strike. I want it to be not too loud. Waiting to see you. Oh, sounds good. Glad. You don't hear any music? Well, that is the opposite of what I want. So I'm... Huh, that is very strange, isn't it? Oh, well, thank you for helping me figure this out, because this is not something I can figure out how to do outside of having people watch the stream live, so that's a pain in the bum. I'm glad you like it, glad you like it, Chaos Smith. I hope you stick around. Can you hear it now? Can you hear music now? Should be able to hear something. Well, music helps set the tone, doesn't it? No music. That is bizarre. I see the little bar moving. Looks like it's doing something. Well, regardless, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me today. This is another charity stream that we're doing. The music is the new cake. Ah, the music, yeah, I see what you mean. Very strange indeed. I'm gonna just pump that right up. Maybe some point it will start working again. That's my head out of frame. Very strange. Gladys was a cruel mistress. Yes, she was. Anyway, thank you for joining me here today. And for those of you that are watching, we are raising money for charity today. And the charity is, as the title says, the Harm Reduction International Charity, which focuses on helping people affected by substance abuse. So it's not just to help people afflicted with it, it's also helping change policies and destigmatizing the issue. This isn't getting good, is it, with my throat closing up? Your mic is blocking the input of the music? No, I don't think so. Shouldn't be. Everything's all hunky-dory down here. But oh well. Anyway, as I said, or was saying, what was I saying? Yes, this is something that is, I believe, very important, and hopefully we can go down into the future. I have completely lost my train of thought. I woke up at 6 a.m. today, and it's 9, so I'm already ready for bed, but I'm not going to go to sleep just yet. I'm going to let it be a few hours' time, so more people can get in. Finishing a dream, drug counseling. Oh, hopefully you do get the chance. Anyway, yes, I'm gonna start reading so people don't just tune into the stream wanting to hear something and then suddenly disappear because they're not into it. We want that retention because that's how we get the donations. If you want to donate, you can either go directly to the charity itself, or you can send a super chat. The little $sign, the little thing in the chat there, it's how you get a highlighted message, but it's also how you send the money to me and then I send it to them. And if you follow me on Blue Sky, or I'll just post it to the post section of YouTube, the receipt of me showing you, hey, I've sent the money, this charity has received it. Anyway, let's begin with our first story. Sorry I can't respond to every comment just yet, but thank you all for coming, and I'm glad, Chaos, I am glad you managed to dodge that, and Hannah, hopefully you get the chance to go back. Yes, anyway, thank you for joining, and the first story I'm going to move the thing over here. Really can't hear the music. Oh, that is so crazy. Que sera? And I am somehow moving that instead of the screen. Anyway. The first story is entitled My Coworker Was Indestructible, and this is by Tapeworm Reverie. Until very recently, I worked for a company that manufactures parts for large medical equipment. For my own anonymity, I'm going to keep the details vague. All you really need to know is that I worked with big chunks of metal in a relatively small factory in the middle of nowhere. I've been in the metalworking field for quite a long while at this point, and I've seen my fair share of industrial accidents over the years. I've long since come to terms with the fact that an occasional gnarly gash or painful abrasion is par for the course in my line of work. In fact, almost all of my co-workers at the factory had endured some kind of minor injury in their career, all except for one. One of my former co-workers was this guy called Lawrence. He was a loner, mid-30s, and quiet to the point of being antisocial. Although he didn't really engage with us other guys, he was pleasant enough. Never rude or anything like that, but not particularly friendly either. People still tried to joke around with him all the time, mainly about the fact that he seemed to never get hurt, or even react to things that should be painful. It became a running joke of sorts that he was indestructible. I think people were trying to encourage him to socialize, but it ended up annoying him more than anything else. Generally, he tolerated the joke with a wry sort of grace. There was clearly some amount of truth to the joke, though. Lawrence would regularly touch burning hot metal or chemical irritants without so much as a flinch. It was impressive that he could endure, albeit concerning. The running gag was only reinforced when, about a year ago, Lawrence had an incident with a milling machine. He was using the thing as he usually did, with no personal protective equipment whatsoever. I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but a thin hunk of metal about the size, thickness, and shape of a tortilla chip flew up from the metal sheet he was cutting and made its way directly into his eye. He didn't yell in pain, nor was there any blood. He didn't even seem concerned or freaked out about his apparent eye trauma. It turned out that he was completely fine, not even a scratch. Apparently the shard had wedged itself perfectly between his eyeball and tear duct, miraculously avoiding cutting either his eye or face. In light of recent events, however, I'm not so sure that explanation is entirely accurate. In the following months, Lawrence became more and more careless with his work. Not that he was doing a bad job per se. The issue was that he was entirely ignoring safety guidelines. Evidently, he was always a little more lax when it came to that sort of thing, and he seemed to lack the self-preservation instincts that most people have. We would consistently remind him of the safety precautions, but he never really listened, claiming that it was easier to do the job without protective equipment. He was doing good work, so the higher-ups didn't really care if he broke a few guidelines, and nobody wanted to press the issue with him. I sincerely regret not making more of an attempt to intervene. I still struggle to wrap my head around what exactly happened to Lawrence last week. And things that I witnessed don't sound possible, even to myself, but I'll do my best to articulate the events of my last day working for the company. For the first 3/4 of my workday, absolutely nothing was amiss, or even mildly out of the ordinary. It was a Wednesday, The project I was working on was unremarkable. I was on a bit of a time crunch due to some external factors going on in my life I won't get into here, so I decided to work late so I could finish up what I was doing ahead of schedule and have a bit more free time later. Lawrence apparently also decided to work late, which wasn't surprising, as he did so somewhat often. As one might surmise based on his description, he wasn't really the type of guy to go out for some drinks with the boys. Instead of socializing, Lawrence was working late. I assume Okay, my screen just completely... That's never happened in my life. The screen just went white. Okay, very weird. Okay, we're back. I assume the majority of people reading this aren't very familiar with the types of machines used for large-scale metalworking. So allow me to give a highly condensed version of what exactly we're dealing with. A metal lathe is a sort of potter's wheel for metal, a turning machine that we use to cut, sand, and face metal. They allow us to cut metal extremely efficiently and symmetrically, and Lawrence stuck his hand in one. I have no idea why exactly he did so. I can only assume it was a careless mistake. The second his hand connected with the spinning rod of metal, he yelped in shock. Lawrence and I were the only two on that side of the factory floor, and I guess that means I was the only one besides him who saw the initial impact. I braced myself to be splattered with chunks of gore as my coworker was obliterated by an industrial machine, but the rain of blood, guts, and brain matter I was expecting never came. For an infinitesimally small fraction of a second, I thought maybe nothing had happened at all. But then I looked back up, and my ephemeral relief was replaced by horror and confusion. There was no blood, no screaming. Lawrence only looked confused. His arm was caught around the metal rod he was cutting, but instead of being violently ripped from his body or sucking him into the machine, it was stretching. It stretched like he was made of clay, until I heard the stomach-churning pop sound of his shoulder being pulled from its socket as he stumbled forward. His arm had wrapped around the rod dozens and dozens of times, looking like a coiled spring. He had a look of panic on his face. I assume he must have been frozen in shock, but he finally started to scream. In what felt like 20 minutes, but was really only half a second, his arm seemed to run out of slack, and his body was pulled into the lathe. At least his upper half was. His legs stood in place as his torso stretched at its midsection, joining his arm in the spring-like coil. His screaming faded after a few rotations, giving way to a gurgling, retching sound. A small amount of vomit leaked from his mouth, little droplets of it landing on the floor and the walls as his upper body spun in place. At this point, I finally came to my senses and rushed to turn off the thing. I didn't actually have anything to do, however, because by the time my initial shock had subsided, the backed-up folds of Lawrence's skin and flesh had jammed the machine. I had no idea what to do from there. In my dazed state, I hadn't noticed the guys who were working on the other side of the factory floor had gathered around. Everyone had this look in their eyes like I'd never seen, this horrified, confused, glazed-over look only present when one witnesses something beyond comprehension. I called the police, not able to fully explain what I'd just seen. I was probably babbling incoherently. The police arrived. They called who I assumed was the FBI. The FBI guys called someone else. Soon enough, Lawrence's body was being unwound from the piece of steel by government officials and carried away. I thought he was dead. He was making a sound. I thought it was agonal breathing or some sort of death rattle, but when I saw his face, I knew he was trying to speak. He was fully conscious. The image of his eyes as they made contact with mine will be laser cut into my retinas forever. Needless to say, I quit my job. Cool. That was a pretty good one. I like it. It's been a while. So, let's see. Oh my goodness, Elizabeth Black donated $100. That is incredible. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I didn't see that earlier. I was narrating. But thank you so much. That is incredible. No message, I think. I'm trying to see if there's a message, but thank you, Elizabeth. That is so kind. Thank you. Let's see. You lost a dear old friend last year to drug addiction. I'm happy to see any support others may be able to receive. Elizabeth, that is incredible stuff. I will make sure to show you guys the receipt in the post section of YouTube, so keep an eye out for that on the channel. Thank you so much. We've already made a lot of money already from that very generous donation. You are incredible, Elizabeth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That makes a massive difference. Okay, let's see what else. Also, before I continue actually, I am very sorry for your loss. It is a terrible, terrible thing to have to deal with. And this will go to help people. I am very sorry for your loss. Many people have been impacted by this sort of thing in their lives. You aren't alone. Please know this. And the organization we're helping, I believe, also assists in helping those impacted, the loved ones of those impacted. So please seek out, if you need any assistance in that regard, this organization. Thank you again. If you want to suggest a story, Elizabeth, please feel free to link it in the chat. Hopefully that should come along. And I should be able to read it. Thank you very much, Kenny Foster, for the $4. Every single penny counts, so thank you so much. That is really, really kind of you. I can't wait to, tally all this up in the end. Because, this is already a good... It's fantastic. Thank you, guys. Just you showing up. No, that is... Kenny, you don't have to do any more. You've already done plenty. Thank you. Just people turning up and supporting the stream, you're already amazing. So, thank you very much. Remember, if you have a suggestion for a story and you donate, the higher your donation, whether it's $1, $100, $4, $5, £10, 5 rubles, it goes to the head of the queue. I'm not very good at talking today, but if you enjoyed that last story, please feel free to support the creator by checking them out on the Creepypasta wiki, and that is where I am reading most of the stories tonight, unless you guys have others to suggest. Welcome, Shelley Scott. Welcome. Welcome, Eric Logan, as well. I can't see everyone who joins, but thank you for joining. Right, we are going to attempt to find another story. Sometimes I like to browse for specific ones, but other times I do enjoy just hitting the random button. Let's see. Stories. Where is the... It's usually a random button. Did they get rid of it? That would suck. Random story. Go! Oh. Nature. Random story in nature. Cool. If this ends up being really bad, I will skip it. But for right now, This is a story called That Man is Hiding Something, and it is by Elite Slinger 24. Last summer, I, my family, and my best friend John went on a trip to spend a few days in the cabin my dad rented. My father was very happy because of how cheap it was. The cabin was located in, to be honest, the middle of nowhere. But regardless, I was happy to finally be able to get out of the house. We spent about 3 days driving in our small RV to the area the cabin was located in. Thankfully, I was only a child, so John and I had most of the RV to ourselves. I was an only child, sorry. When we arrived at the cabin, I couldn't help but be unsettled. The cabin itself was nice looking, but the huge forest area behind it just seemed creepy. John and I jumped out of the RV and made our way into the cabin. "Wow, not too shabby," said my mother when we stepped inside. "Yep, I'm surprised such a nice cabin costs so little rent," my father said in response. Come on, Mason, let's go outside. Check out the backyard," John said to me as he grabbed my arm and led me to the door leading to the backyard. "Stay out of the forest, boys. It's probably government property," my mother yelled as we went outside. The backyard was a small area of dead grass, so you can guess it was pretty boring. After about 30 minutes of just sitting out there, John looked at me. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" John said with a mischievous look in his eye. John was always a troublemaker, and as much as I hated getting into trouble, I usually joined him in his crazy ideas, which very often got me in trouble as well. No, John, we are not going into the forest," I said with a stern tone. "Come on, don't be lame, dude. Besides, we won't go that far from the cabin." "What if we get caught?" I said, trying to get John to change his mind. "We won't, I promise," he said, as he anxiously waited for me to go with him. We climbed over the fence, separating the forest from the yard. My unsettled feeling returned tenfold as we began walking deeper into the forest. Hey, what are you doing? This area is restricted. Get out of here!" John and I turned to look where the voice had came from. Then we saw an older man in a black trench coat with black sunglasses and a hat start approaching us from the forest. John and I ran as fast as we could back to the yard, climbed over the fence, and ran into the cabin. After catching our breath, we noticed a note on the counter. I walked over and picked it up. "What does it say?" "It's from my mum and dad. They said they're gone for an hour or so, and they want us in bed by 9. I was very suspicious. My parents would never leave me home alone, but after a while I shrugged it off. We spent the time until we had to go to sleep by looking out the window to see if the old man was still there. Luckily, he wasn't, so we decided to go to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night to John shaking me. "What do you want, dude?" I said, trying to keep my eyes open. "Oh, other way around." "The old guy isn't out there anymore. Let's go back," he said eagerly. "Dude, are you insane? There's no way we're going back out there." "All right, I'm using the best friend card," John said with a smirk. When me and John were little, we made up the best friend card. Basically, any time one of us said to the other person, any time one of us said it to the other person, they had to do what the other person said, because it's our friendship that would be at stake otherwise. We snuck downstairs and grabbed 2 flashlights on our coats. Then we carefully opened the back door, trying not to wake my parents, and left. Intense fear hit me when I saw the fog that enveloped the forest. It also didn't help that it was a very dark night. We once again climbed over the fence and began walking into the forest. It was very cold, which was peculiar since it was summer. The forest was silent, the only noise being mine and John's footsteps. After what seemed like hours of walking, the cabin was out of sight. "All right, you had your fun, now let's go back," I said with fear present in my eyes. "No, we haven't found what we're looking for yet," John said in response. "What do you mean? You didn't tell me you were looking for something. This forest is empty," I said angrily. John interjected. "A man's hiding something. Why else would he have been so eager for us to leave earlier? Whatever he's hiding, I'm going to find it." Not wanting to ruin our friendship, I continued to walk with him. Deeper into the forest, we noticed a large government building inside a chain-link fence. "No way, this is what he was hiding," John said in awe. "Dude, this is government property. We need to get out of here, or else we could get in trouble," I said as I grabbed his arm. "Okay, we'll go back after we see what's inside," John said as we climbed over the gate. I climbed over the fence shortly after John. We got to the front of the building and noticed that the doors were unlocked. John and I entered the building and found ourselves in a long hallway with several rooms on the left and right walls, as well as a room at the end of the hallway. The lights flickered on and off, and most of the rooms were locked. When we made it to the end of the hallway, we stood before an unlocked door labeled Experiment Containment Room. John and I walked inside and found a large broken containment capsule. The walls were covered in large claw marks, and the shattered glass from the containment capsule was scattered across the floor. But by far the most disturbing thing was the blood-covered bodies lying on the floor. Its cell. After a long stretch of silence, I forced out the words, "Oh God." John was pale as he looked at what was going. John was pale and looked as if he was going to throw up. "Do you know what this means?" John mumbled. "Whatever was supposed to be contained in here, it escaped." Without saying another word, John and I broke out of our paralyzed state and ran out of the building. We slammed open the front doors of the building and saw the old man from before standing in front of us. "What are you doing in here?" he yelled. "Do you realize what you've done?" "We're on our way out, sir. Please, don't hurt us. We won't tell anyone," I begged. You need to run. It's already here," the old man whispered. Then, a humanoid creature jumped down from the roof of the building and landed on top of the man. The creature began ripping the man apart with its large claws and pointed teeth. The man's bones snapped, and the flesh was being torn from him as he screamed in agony. John and I ran in the direction we assumed was the cabin. The fog became more and more thick and made it hard to see. Then a loud screech echoed from behind us. We knew that the creature was getting closer, even though the fog made it impossible to see behind us. John and I kept running, even though every breath we took hurt our lungs. The creature's screeching became louder as it got closer to us. Then we saw the cabin up ahead. As we got closer to it, the creature's screams began to get quieter until we could no longer hear it. We arrived at the backyard and quickly climbed over the fence. We slammed the back door of the cabin, locked it, and ran to my parents' room. I flipped on the lights of their room, only to find that they weren't there. Then, the house phone started ringing. I ran to the phone and answered it, hoping it was my parents. Mason, you need to listen," my father yelled through the phone between static. "Dad, where are you? Are you okay?" "Mason, honey, you need to get out of..." my mother said before the call ended. John and I looked at each other with fear. Then we heard the screech again. We ran up the stairs into my bedroom and locked the door. I ran over to my closet and opened it. "Come on, John, get inside!" Just as John and I entered the closet, we heard the back door burst open. We held in our screams as we heard the creature climb rapidly up the stairs. Then, the creature clawed through the door to my room. John and I looked at the crevice underneath the door and saw the creature's long clawed hands. We opened our eyes. The closet door was ripped open. And there stood Jimmy Savile. Okay, no offense, Elite Slinger 24, but not my favorite story. It was kind of a weird one. I added that Jimmy Savile thing at the end because I'm a weirdo. But regardless, it was a story. Thank you very much, Josh Chilton, for the $10. Long-time listener and happy to donate for the cause. I've had friends go through addiction. It's hard to escape, and I hope this can help at least one person. That would be enough. Thank you very much. It most certainly will. I can guarantee that. I tried to do as much research as I could for the charity I wanted to help out in this live stream. It was tough. I'll admit, I know a lot more about nature charities and wildlife because that's my main interest in life. But I did my best to see what organizations focused on this topic, not just in the UK and not just in the States, but also globally. I wanted to make sure I just wanted to make sure that it tackled as many people as possible. And yes, sorry Hannah, I just couldn't take it seriously. It was, I don't know, it was probably some of the earlier work. Just trying to be nice. But I'm also a very mischievous person and I add silly shit in. Nature is therapeutic. I should get out and explore nature more. We all should, if we have access to it. So, yeah, again, guys, if you want to suggest any stories, I am up for that. What is going on? I gotta say, the Creepypasta Wiki today is kind of... am I getting cyber attacked? Is that it? Seems unsecure. Right. My antivirus gave me a warning, so... What about this story? Okay, here's a quick short story. Shorter than usual. It is a very multi-pronged problem. And the organization does focus on that, and that's what I love. They're not just like, slap a band-aid on it, slap a plaster. It's, as you said, multi-pronged. I don't know how to... David Bellamy's Peculiar Noises? Not the best... I'm very confused what that means. Anyway, this next story is... what is going on? I might have to, yeah, I might have to leave this website because I'm getting all sorts of crap popping up on my screen, especially when I try to narrate. Yeah. Not cool. Question, guys. Do you know if it's okay to narrate Reddit stuff for charity? Because it's not for me to make money, it's for charity. Yeah, the Creepypasta Wiki. Yeah, I know public domain stories exist, but a lot of them are older stuff. Please do, because this is very unusual for the Creepypasta Wiki. It keeps just going down and I get a virus warning. This ain't usual. These are usually decent websites at least. Very strange. What about this one? Not too long, and it's probably going to destroy my computer. Please hold on, guys. Just some technical difficulties. Yeah, it keeps doing it. That is really frustrating. If you posted a link, it might not come through. Yeah, oh, that sucks. Yeah, it didn't come through. Sorry about that. If you can tell me the name of the website, I'll go check stuff out there. Because for right this second, the usual websites I read stuff on are being a little silly. Calle? Calle as in like Spanish? Cali. Cali. Not really seeing anything. Okay. Yeah, I'm just getting... I've got public domain movies coming up. Doesn't seem to exist on my... Oh. Oh, it's called Public Domain Horror Stories, A Passion for Horror. Ah, thank you. Stories, We will get there soon, guys. Don't you worry. We've already raised over $100 thanks to some very, very generous people. Still not finding anywhere. Oh, wait, no. Steve Calvert. There we go. Steve Calvert. Very good. Thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you very much. Oh, sweaty. Right. So this next one is... Yeah, let's go with this one. It's a little poem by William Allingham. It's called The Fairies. Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men. Wee folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl's feather. Down along the rocky shore some make their home. They live on crispy pancakes of yellow tide foam. Some in the reeds of the black mountain lake, with frogs from their watchdogs, for their watchdogs, all night awake. High on the hilltop the old king sits. He is now so old and grey, he's nigh lost his wits. With a bridge of white mist, a column kill he crosses, on his stately journeys from Silverleague to Rosas, or going up with music, on cold starry nights, to sup with the queen of the gay northern lights. They stole little Bridget for 7 long years. When she came down again, her friends were all gone. They took her lightly back between the night and morrow. They thought that she was fast asleep, but she was dead with sorrow. They have kept her ever since, deep within the lake, on a bed of flag leaves, watching till she wake. By the craggy hillside, through the mosses bare, they have planted thorn trees, for pleasure, here and there. Is any man so daring as dig them up in spite? He shall find their sharpest thorns in his bed at night. Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we daren't go a-hunting for fear of little men. Wee folk, good folk, trooping all together, green jacket, red cap, and white owl's feather. That's cute. That was a cute one. Cute little fae story. If I could suggest, you could read one of Edgar Allan Poe's works, definitely royalty free. Yeah, that is true. It's he's done some good stuff. Drug addiction. Via that. I'm going to try and avoid doing something too long, just in case I miss certain donations, because for some reason they disappear after a certain time. And I think that's just so silly. Such a silly system. Pardon me. Public domain horror stories. Let's see. Oh, taking a while to load there. A bunch of anonymous ones. Which one looks the best? That one just seems silly. Phantom Toe. Yeah, that's how it works, Josh. It's still annoying. About the Ghost of Red Creek. How long are you? Okay, that's a decent length. Perfect. Ghost of Red Creek, an anonymous story. To the northward of Mississippi City and its neighbor, Hansborough, there extends a tract of pine forest for miles with but few habitations scattered throughout it. Red and black creeks, with their numerous branches, drain this region into the Pascagoula River to the eastward. With the swamps of Pascagoula as a refuge, and the luxuriant and unfrequented bottoms of red and black creeks to browse upon, there are fewer choice places for deer. Knowing this fact, a small party of gentlemen on the day before a crisp, cold Christmas started from Hansborough in a large four-wheeled wagon for a 30-mile drive into this wilderness of pine and a week of sport after the deer. Just going to take a quick drink. Where am I? The guide was Jim Carruthers, a true woodsman, and the driver, General Factotum. Can't say that word. Can't say a jolly black fellow named Jack Lyons. Maybe I don't want to do this story. Than whom no one could make a better hoe cake and cook a venison steak. His laugh could be heard a quarter of a mile, and his good nature was as expensive as the range of the laughter. The usual experiences of a hunting camp were heartily enjoyed during the first days of this life out of doors. But its cream did not rise until about the fifth night, when, from familiar intercourse, Jack Lyons became loquacious, and after the day's 20 or 25-mile walk, would spin yarns in front of the campfire, which brought forgetfulness of fatigue. The night before New Year's was intensely cold. The cold north wind of the afternoon had subsided at sunset, and only a gust now and again touched the musical leaves of the pines, making them vibrant with that mournful score of nature's operas which even maestros have failed to catch. In front of two new and white tents, two sportsmen reclined at length within reach of the warmth of the fire, while opposite them rested at ease the guide and the worthy Jack Lyons. Wearied with the day's chase, 4 staunch hounds, Ringwood, Rose, Jet, and Boxer, were dreaming of future quarry. The firelight brought out the bright relief in the trunks of all the tall pines, like cathedral columns, and sparkling through the leafy dome overhead, the scintillating stars glistened with a diamond brightness. A silence which added influence to the scene rested about the borders of the creek below, and gave more effect to the story of the veteran teamster than perhaps it otherwise would have. I don't like speaking like that. If the deer run down the... Fuck it. Sorry, like, I know this is a very dated story, but I'm so uncomfortable. Sounds like the donations stay up very low. Is my computer okay? I think so. Is there any issue? I don't want to speak like this, but if the deer run down the creek, said old Jack, smacking his lips over a carefully prepared brewing of real... Yeah, sorry, guy. I'm not finishing that story. It's too dated and offensive. I can't be doing this. I'm just gonna move to another one. I don't want to be doing a bloody caricature of a black dude from that time. I'd much rather move on to a different story. If I can find one. Let's see. There are so many to choose from, but at the same time... What about this story called Monkeys? I like monkeys. Too long. Pirates? The cat? Might want to skip Rats in the Walls. Duly noted. Duly noted. Sorry, I did have more prepared, but the website has completely cocked out. Shouldn't put all my eggs in one basket, I guess. Okay. This one is called The Isle of Pines by Ambrose Bierce. We have done his stories before on the channel, so should be good. For many years, there lived near the town of Gallipolis, Ohio, an old man named Herman DeLuce. Very little was known of his history, for he would neither speak of it himself nor suffer others. It was a common belief among his neighbors that he had been a pirate, if upon any better evidence than his collection of boarding pikes, cutlasses, and ancient flintlock pistols. No one knew. He lived entirely alone in a small house of 4 rooms, falling rapidly into decay and never repairing further than was required by the weather. It stood on a slight elevation, in the midst of a large stony field overgrown with brambles and cultivated in patches, and only in the most primitive way. It was his only visible property, but could hardly have yielded him a living. Simple and few as were his wants, he seemed always to have ready money, and paid cash for all his purchases at the village stores roundabout, seldom buying more than 2 or 3 times at the same place until after the lapse of a considerable time. He got no commendation, however, for this equitable distribution of his patronage. People were disposed to regard it as an ineffectual attempt to conceal his possession of so much money. That he had great hoards of ill-gotten gold buried somewhere about his tumble-down dwelling was not reasonably to be doubted by any honest soul, conservant with the facts of local tradition and gifted with a sense of the fitness of things. On the 9th of November, 1867, the old man died. At least, his dead body was discovered on the 10th, and physicians tested that the death had occurred about 24 hours previously. Precisely how, they were unable to say, for the post-mortem examination showed every organ to be absolutely healthy, with no indication of disorder or violence. According to them, death must have taken place about noonday, yet the body was found in bed. The verdict of the coroner's jury was that he came to his death by a visitation of God. The body was buried, and the public administrator took charge of the estate. A rigorous search disclosed nothing more than was already known about the dead man, and much patient excavation here and there about the premises by thoughtful and thrifty neighbors were unrewarded. The administrator locked up the house against the time when the property, real and personal, should be sold by law with a view of defraying partly the expenses of the sale. The night of November 20th was boisterous. A furious gale stormed across the country, scourging it with desolating drifts of sleet. Great trees were torn from the earth and hurled across the roads. So wild a night had never been known in all of that region, but toward the storm had blown itself out of breath, and day dawned bright and clear. At about 8 o'clock that morning, the Reverend Henry Galbraith, a well-known and highly esteemed Lutheran minister, arrived on foot at his house, a mile and a half from the Deluse place. Mr. Galbraith had been for a month in Cincinnati. He had come up the river in a steamboat, and landing at Gallipolis the previous evening, had immediately obtained a horse and a buggy and set out for home. The violence of the storm had delayed him overnight, and the morning the falling trees had compelled him to abandon his conveyance, and continue his journey afoot. "But where did you pass the night?" inquired his wife, after he had briefly related his adventure. "With old Deluse at the Isle of Pines," was the laughing reply. Sorry, I gotta let my cat in, or else she won't stop being loud. Come on. Scratching at the door, making noise. And a glum enough time I had of it. He made no objection to my remaining, but not a word I could get out of him. Fortunately for the interests of truth, there was present a conversation Mr. Robert Moseley Marin, a lawyer and literature of Columbus, the same who wrote the delightful Mellowcraft papers, noting but apparently not sharing the astonishment caused by Mr. Galbraith's answer. This ready-witted person checked by a gesture the exclamation that would naturally have followed, and tranquilly inquired, "How came you to go in there?" This is Mr. Marin's version of Mr. Galbraith's reply. She is being noisy. "I saw a light moving about the house, and being nearly blinded by the sleet, and half frozen besides, drove in at the gates, and put up my horse in the old rail stable, where it is now. I then rapped at the door, and getting no invitation, went in without one. The room was dark, but having matches, I found a candle and lit it. I tried to enter the adjoining room, but the door was fast, and although I heard the old man's heavy footsteps in there, he made no response to my calls. There was no fire on the hearth, so I made one, and laying down before it with my overcoat under my head, prepared myself for sleep. Pretty soon the door that I had tried silently opened, and the old man came in carrying a candle. I spoke to him pleasantly, apologizing for my intrusion, but he took no notice of me. He seemed to be searching for something, though his eyes were unmoved in their sockets. I wonder if he ever walks in his sleep. He took a circuit of the apartment, part of the way of the room, and went the same way he came in. Twice more before I slept, he came back into the room, acting precisely the same way, and departing as at first. In the intervals I heard him trampling all over the house, his footsteps distinctly audible in the pauses of the storm. When I woke in the morning, he'd already gone out. Mr. Marin attempted some further questioning, but was unable longer to restrain the family's tongues. The story of Deluse's death and the burial came out, greatly to the good minister's astonishment. Oh, sorry, I just realized we got some donations. I need to say thank you. Thank you very much, Valiant Gold, for the 11 euros. That is awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you very much to Dogo123 for the £10. Valiant Gold said, not a lot, but hope it helps. It really does help. Thank you so much. And Dogo123, big up my good friend and brother from 6'3", 90 kilograms, 8.3 inches, Kai. No doubt there. No doubt there, King. I'm heavier than you, though. Might be shorter, but I'm here. Anyway, let's continue with that. 8.3 inches. Whew. Big fella. Mr. Marin attempted some further questioning, but was unable to longer restrain the family's tongues. The explanation of your adventure is very simple, said Mr. Marin. I don't believe old Deluse walks in his sleep, not in his present one, but you evidently dreamt of yours. And to this view of the matter, Mr. Galbraith was completely reluctant to assent. Nevertheless, a late hour of the next night found these two gentlemen, accompanied by a son of the minister, in the road in front of the old Deluse house. There was a light inside. It appeared now at one of the windows, and then at another. The three men advanced to the door. Just as they reached it, there came from the interior a confusion of the most appalling sounds. The clash of weapons, steel against steel, sharp explosions as of firearms, shrieks of women, groans, and the curses of men in combat. The investigators stood a moment, irresolute, frightened. Then Mr. Galbraith tried the door. It was fast, but the minister was a man of courage, a man, moreover, of Herculean strength. He retired a pace or two, and rushed against the door, striking it with his right shoulder and bursting it from the frame with a loud crash. In a moment, the three were inside. Darkness and silence. The only sound was the beating of their hearts. Mr. Marin had provided himself with matches and a candle. With some difficulty, begotten of his excitement, he made a light, and they proceeded to explore the place, passing from room to room. Everything was in orderly arrangement, and as it had been left by the sheriff, nothing had been disturbed. A light coating of dust was everywhere. A back door was partly open, as if by neglect, and their first thought was that the authors of the awful revelry might have escaped. The door was opened, and the light of the candle shone through the open ground. The expiring effort of the previous night's storm had been a light fall of snow. There were no footprints. The white surface was unbroken. They closed the door and entered the last room of the four that the house contained, the farthest from the road, in an angle of the building. Here the candle in Mr. Marin's hand was suddenly extinguished, as by a draught of air. Almost immediately followed the sound of a heavy fall. When the candle had been hastily relighted, young Mr. Galbraith was seen prostrate on the floor at a little distance from the others. He was dead. In one hand the body grasped a heavy sack of coins, which later examination showed to be all of old Spanish mintage. Directly over the body as it lay, a board had been torn from its fastening in the wall, and from the cavity so disclosed it was evident that the bag had been taken. Another inquest was held. Another post-mortem examination failed to reveal a probable cause of death. Another verdict of the visitation of God left all at liberty to form their own conclusions. Mr. Marin concluded that the young man died of excitement. Thank you very much, guys. That was fun. That was interesting. Yeah, Sooty, this is my cat. She is 21. 21 years old. Believe it or not. Look at them claws. She is a good girl. Still fairly spry for her age. I'm often surprised when people are surprised by her age, because, I don't know, she feels like she's still just a normal cat. But indoor cats do live a lot longer because of a lot of, stuff that happens to cats outside. Anyway, let's go for another story. Kai or anyone, did you have another story to suggest or something to read? Aw, 6. So long ago, eh? Welcome, Angry Cupcake, Cake Juggernaut. Security guard standing behind you, logically. What's in the tank or the aquarium? Human skull surrounded by scarabs and cockroaches. Yeah, I'm a weirdo. In the tank, I'm trying to rear triops. Specifically, triops cairniformis, I think, is the subspecies. Cairniformis. Oh, my computer's doing a weird thing again. It loves doing that. Absolutely adores it. If I move... Sorry, I'm just trying to make it look better than it is. Does the microphone still sound fine if it's this far away from me? I always have, like, a little bit of trepidation when I do that. I'm also very warm. My girlfriend has the heating on. It is too hot for me. I am very, very warm. Sounds good. That's good to me. Our oldest so far made it to about 16 based on very cautious estimates, but was a former stray. Ah, yeah. It's a tough life, strays. They have a very tough time. But it's good that they had a nice end to their existence at the very least. Trying to find another story. It's a little longer than I want, some of these. I'm gonna take that off my hand. The sea fit. That's good that they've lived to be 15 plus. That's always good. Let's see. With intent to steal. These are getting longer every time I look at them. That's too long. Haunted Island, too long. Suspicious gift. you could load the page, that'd be cool. Done. Egyptian hornet. That sounds cool. Alright, okay. Oh, that's long as well. Might just have to do it. Can't leave you guys waiting so long, eh? Oh, Jeff the Killer. The original. Isn't that quite long too? Huh. Okay, yeah, none of this is... What is going on with my computer? Screw it. For right now, we'll leave that. And we'll read An Egyptian Hornet by Algernon Blackwood. The word has an angry, malignant sound that brings the idea of attack vividly into the mind. There is a vicious sting about it somewhere. Even a foreigner, ignorant of the meaning, must feel it. A hornet is wicked. It darts and stabs, it pierces, aiming without provocation for the face and eyes. The name suggests a metallic droning of evil wings, fierce light and poisonous assault, venomous. Though black and yellow, it sounds scarlet. There is blood in it, a striped tiger of the air in concentrated form. There is no escape if it attacks. In Egypt, an ordinary bee is the size of an English hornet, but the Egyptian hornet is enormous. It is truly monstrous, an ominous, dying terror. It shares that universal quality of the land, of the Sphinx and the pyramids. Great size, it is a formidable insect, worse than the scorpion or tarantula, which are arachnids. The Reverend James Milligan, meeting one for the first time, realized the meaning of the word as well, a word he used prolifically in his eloquent sermons: devil. One morning in April, when the heat began to bring the insects out, he rose as usual, betimes, and went across the wide stone corridor to his bath. The desert already glared in through the open windows. The heat would be afflicted later that day, but at this early hour the cool north wind blew pleasantly down the hotel passages. It was Sunday, and at 8:30 he would appear to conduct the morning service for the English visitors. The floor of the passageway was cold beneath his feet, in their thin native slippers of bright yellow. He was neither young nor old. His salary was comfortable. He had a competency of his own. Without wife or children to absorb it, the dry climate had been recommended to him, and the big hotel took him in for next to nothing. He was thoroughly pleased with himself, for he was a sleek, vain, pompous, well-advertised personality, but mean as a rat. No worries of any kind were on his mind, as carrying sponge and towel, scented soap, and bottle of scrub ammonia, he travelled amiably across the deserted, shining corridor of the bathroom, and nothing went wrong with the Reverend James Milligan, until he opened the door, and his eye fell upon a dark, suspicious-looking object clinging to the window pane in front of him. And even then, at first, he felt no anxiety or alarm, but merely a natural curiosity to know exactly what this was. This little clot of an odd-shaped, elongated thing that stuck there on the wooden frame, 6 feet before his aquiline nose. He went straight... God, hair everywhere. He went straight up to see it. Then he stopped dead. His heart gave a distinct, unclerical leap. His lips formed themselves into unregenerate shape. He gasped, "Good God, what is it?" For something unholy, something wicked as a secret sin, stuck there before his eyes in the patch of blazing sunshine. He caught his breath. For a moment he was unable to move, as though the sight half fascinated him. Then, cautiously and very slowly, stealthily in fact, he withdrew towards the door he had just entered. Fearful of making the smallest sound, he retraced his steps on tiptoe. His yellow slippers shuffled. His dry sponge fell and bounced till it settled, rolling close beneath the horribly attractive object facing him. From the safety of the open door, the ample space for retreat behind him, he paused and stared. His entire being focused itself in his eyes. It was a hornet that he saw. It hung there, motionless and threatening, between him and the bathroom door. And at first he merely exclaimed, below his breath, "Good God, it's an Egyptian hornet!" Being a man with a reputation for decided action, however, he soon recovered himself. He was well schooled in self-control. When people left his church at the beginning of the sermon, no muscle of his face betrayed the wounded vanity and annoyance that burned deep in his heart. But a hornet sitting directly in his path was a very different matter. He realized in a flash that he was poorly clothed, in a word, that he was practically half naked. From a distance he examined this intrusion of the devil. It was calm and very still. It was wonderfully made, both before and behind. Its wings were folded upon its terrible body, long, sinuous things, pointed like temptation, barbed as well, stuck out of it. There was poison, and yet grace in its exquisite presence. The shiny black was beautiful, and its yellow stripes upon its sleek, curved abdomen were like the gleaming ornaments upon the feminine body of the seductive world he preached against. Almost he saw an abandoned dancer on the stage, and then, swiftly in his impressionable soul, the simile changed, and he saw instead more blunt and aggressive forms of destruction. The well-filled body, tapering to a horrid point, reminded him of those perfect engines of death that reduce hundreds to annihilation unawares. Torpedoes, shells, projectiles crammed with secret, desolating powers. Its wings, its awful, quiet head, its delicate, slim waist, its stripes of brilliant saffron, all these seemed the concentrated prototype of abominations made cleverly by the brain of man, and beautifully painted to disguise their invisible fright of cruel death. "Bah!" he exclaimed, ashamed of his prolific imagination. "It's only a hornet, after all, an insect." And he contrived a hurried, careful plan. He aimed a towel at it, rolled it up into a ball, but did not throw it. He might miss. He remembered that his ankles were unprotected. Instead, he paused again, examining the black and yellow object in safe retreatment near the door. As one day, he hoped to watch the world in leisurely retirement in the country. It did not move. It was fixed and terrible. It made no sound. Its wings were folded. Not even the black antennae, blunt at the tips like clubs, followed the least stir or tremble. It breathed, however. He watched the rise and fall of the evil body. It breathed air in and out, as he himself did. The creature, he realized, had lungs and a heart and organs. It had a brain. Its mind was active all this time. It knew it was being watched. It merely waited. Any second, with a whiz of fury, and with perfect accuracy of aim, it might dart at him and strike. If he threw the towel and missed, it certainly would. Insects don't have lungs, by the way. They breathe via spiracles in their body. Just wanted to point that out. There were other occupants of the corridor, however, and the sound of steps approaching gave him the decision to act. He would lose his bath if he hesitated much longer. He felt ashamed of his timidity. Though pusillanimity was the word he thought selected owing to the pulpit vocabulary it was his habit to prefer. So sorry about this. He went with extreme caution towards the bathroom door, passing the point of danger so close to that. Not doing well tonight. So close that his skin turned hot and cold. With one foot gingerly extended, he recovered his sponge. The hornet did not move a muscle, but it had seen him pass. It merely waited. All dangerous insects had that trick. It knew quite well where he was inside. It knew quite well he must come out a few minutes later. It also knew quite well he was naked. Once inside the little room, he closed the door with exceeding gentleness, lest the vibration might stir the fearful insect to attack. The bath was already filled, and he plunged his neck with a feeling of comparative security. A window into the outside passage he also closed, so that nothing could possibly come inside, and the steam soon changed the air and left its blurred deposit on the glass. For 10 minutes he could almost enjoy himself and pretend that he was safe. For 10 minutes he did so. He behaved carelessly, as though nothing mattered, and as though all the courage in the world were his. He splashed and soaped and sponged, making a lot of reckless noise. He got out and dried himself. Slowly the steam subsided. The air grew clearer. He put on a dressing gown and slippers. It was time to go out. Unable to devise any further reason for delay, he opened the door softly half an inch, peeped out, and instantly closed it again, with a resounding bang. He had heard the drone of wings. The insect had left its perch and now buzzed upon the floor directly in his bath. The air seemed full of stings. He felt stabs all over him. His unprotected portions winced with the expectancy of pain. The beast knew he was coming out and was waiting for him. In that brief instant he had felt stings all over him, on his unprotected ankles, on his back, his neck, his cheeks, in his eyes, and on the bald clearing that adorned his Anglican head. Through the closed door he heard the ominous dull murmur of his striped adversary as it beat its angry wings. Its oiled and wicked sting shot in and out with a fury. Its deft legs worked. He saw its tiny waist already writhing with the lust of battle. That tiny waist! A moment's steady nerve, and he could have severed that cunning body from the directing brain with one swift, well-directed thrust, but his nerve had utterly deserted him. Human motives, even in the professedly holy, are an involved affair at any time. Just now the Reverend James Milligan, they were inextricably mixed. He claims this explanation, at any rate, in excuse of his abominable subsequent behavior. For exactly at this moment, when he decided to admit cowardice by ringing for the Arab servant, a step was audible in the corridor outside, and courage came with it into his disreputable heart. It was the step of the man he cordially disapproved of, using the pulpit version of hated and despised. He overstayed this time, and the bath was in demand by Mr. Mullins. Mr. Mullins invariably followed him at 7:30. It was now 7:45, and Mr. Mullins was a wretched drinking man, a sot. This is a lot longer than I thought it was. Okay, it's almost done. In a flash, the plan was conceived and put into execution. The temptation, of course, was of the devil. Mr. Milligan hid the motive from himself, pretending he hardly recognized it. The plan was what men called a dirty trick. It was also irresistibly seductive. He opened the door, stepped boldly, nose in the air, right over the hideous insect on the floor, and fairly pranced into the outer passage. The brief transit brought 100 horrible sensations: that the hornet would rise and sting his leg, that it would cling to his dressing gown and stab his spine, that he would step upon it and die, like Achilles, of a heel exposed. But with these, and conquering them, was the other stronger emotion that robbed the lesser terrors of their potency: that Mr. Mullins would run precisely the same risks 5 seconds later, unprepared. He heard the gloating insect buzz and scratch the oilcloth, but it was behind him. He was safe. "Good morning to you, Mr. Mullins," he observed with a gracious smile. "I trust I have not kept you waiting." "Morning," grunted Mullins sourly in response, as he passed him with a distinctly hostile and contemptuous air. For Mullins, though depraved perhaps, was an honest man, abhorring parsons and making no secret of his options, whence the bitter feeling. All men, except those very big ones who are supermen, have something astonishingly despicable in them. The despicable thing in Milligan came uppermost now. He fairly chuckled. He met the snub with a calm, forgiving smile, and continued his shambling gait with what dignity he could towards his bedroom opposite. He then turned his head to see. His enemy would meet an infuriated hornet, an Egyptian hornet, and might not notice it. He might step on it. He might not. He was bound to disturb it and rouse it to attack. The chances were enormously on the clerical side, and its sting meant death. "May God forgive me," ran subconsciously through his mind, and side by side with the repentant prayer ran also a recognition of the tempter's eternal skill. I hope the devil it will sting him. It happened very quickly. The Reverend James Milligan lingered a moment by his door to watch. He saw Mullins, the disgusting Mullins, step blithely into the bathroom passage. He saw him pause, shrink back, and raise his arm to protect his face. He heard him swear aloud. What's that doing here? Have I really got him again?" And then he heard him laugh, a hearty guffawing of genuine relief. "It's real!" The moment of revulsion was overwhelming. It filled the churchy heart and with anguish and bitter disappointment. For a space he hated with whole race of men. For the instant, Mr. Mullins realized that the insect was not a fiery illusion of his disordered nerves. He went forward without the smallest hesitation. With his towel he knocked down the flying terror. Then he stooped. He gathered up the venomous thing. He gathered up the venomous thing his well-aimed blow had stricken so easily to the floor. He advanced with it, held it at arm's length, to the window. He tossed it out carelessly. The Egyptian hornet flew away uninjured, and Mr. Mullins, the Mr. Mullins who drank, gave nothing to the church, attended no services, hated parsons, and proclaimed the fact with enthusiasm, this same Mr. Mullins went to his unearned bath without a scratch. But first he saw his enemies standing in the doorway across the passage, watching him, and understood. That was the awful part of it. Mullins would make a story of it, and the story would go the round of the hotel. The Reverend James Mulligan, however, proved that his reputation for self-control was not undeserved. He conducted morning service half an hour later with an expression of peace upon his handsome face. He conquered all outward signs of inward spiritual vexation. The wicked, he consoled himself, ever flourished like green bay trees. It was notorious that the righteous never have any luck at all. That was bad enough. But what was worse, and the Reverend James Milligan remembered for very long, was the superior ease with which Mullins had regaled both himself and the hornet to the same level of comparative insignificance. Mullins ignored them both, which proved that he himself was superior, infinitely worse than the sting of any hornet in the world. He was superior. I just read all that, and it wasn't a horror. It was a guy meeting a wasp in a shower and getting scared. What the hell, Algernon? What the hell? That was just a wasp. He was just scared by a wasp. Oh, goodness. And that was hard to read as well. I kept, having to do, triple and double and quadruple takes. Oi. Sorry. I'm a vain man. Deep down. I don't hate wasps. I actually defend wasps from people who hate them a lot of the time. They are pollinators. They are not useless. Every single species that occurs in nature occurs for a reason. And wasps help maintain other insect and arachnid populations. They eat ticks. They hunt them down, eat them, kill them. They make sure there's not too many caterpillars by parasitizing/eating them. It sounds horrific, but that's nature. They're just, they can be douches sometimes. And even though I defend them to people, for years I had no problems. If a wasp flew in my face, I was just like, no, go away. And it usually did. But one day, I was just walking down the street, as I do, walking, I think, with my dogs. And suddenly, I think I'm getting bitten by a horsefly because it's summer and they're out. And I'm like, this isn't the usual place they occur. But the pain's lingering and getting worse. I look down, and this little bugger, literally just stinging my leg for no reason. Wasn't near a nest or anything. So I just got unlucky and got on the bad side of one of those guys. Also, by the way, I'm not 100% sure how long the stream is going to be. But I'll keep going at least until 11 my time. I want it to at least be 2 hours long. We've already hit a comfortable goal already in terms of donations. That's why I'm feeling, this is pretty decent. I'm just going to take a second to calm my brain down because I was stumbling over every word. This much talking, oh, it's such a hard life, guys. It's so tough. If you have any questions you want to ask me, feel free, about me, the channel, any stories. I saw someone mention Seaside before, a series I was doing, and I'll be honest, I got bored of it. Like, no offense to the author and no offense to people who enjoyed it. It was just rinse and repeat the same thing happening over and over and over again. So I just wasn't really into it. And I don't think most people were. I didn't disconnect from streaming, did I? Okay, cool. I don't think I did. Yeah, it was literally just like, we're on a boat, things attack, we kill them, and I've also forgotten all the voices I did for the characters. All of them. Except the Wendigo. It's been so long, and maybe I'll pick it up again in the future. I lost my drive to do that specific story. No offense to the author, it's just not for me. It's quite long as well. It's very long, and I haven't seen much. It's not a bad story, it's just not for me. I don't want it to sound like I don't like it, because it is very interesting in its own right. But it's like watching a series you enjoy. But say you enjoy One Piece. That's got thousands and thousands of episodes, I think. I couldn't do it. I'm not the type. But anyway. Nature's Temper, you were the first narrator I stumbled across back in 2018, 2019. It led me to starting my own story channel, so thanks, man. Thank you very much, Dexter. It's good to see you again. Because I know you turn up to these quite a lot. I'm going to tie my hair back because my head is hot and the cat's hair is getting all over me. I love this animal, which causes me troubles. I hate tying this up. Your writing story is very nice. I'm sorry, Juggernaut. I'll hopefully try again in the future. I don't like leaving stories unfinished. I've got more I need to do of other things too. And I do have audiobooks I need to finish before December. What's your all-time favorite story or creepypasta that you've read on your channel? My mind automatically goes to a Nancy's Goatman story, or what's the other one called? Fleshgate. I quite like Fleshgate as well. It's an interesting twist on the Skinwalker story, where a monster replaces a character or a person in your life, and not only do they replace them physically, mimicking them, they completely make a new person. They just situate them in your memories, and you have to figure out, is this person real? I don't remember them coming with us. That was really cool. I haven't done My Property Isn't Normal. I try not to do stories covered by other people at my level, or sounds a little big in myself. Pardon me. Other people that do similar stuff to me. God, I hate these little baby curls. Oh, thank you. I did that when I visited Florida last time. It was nice. I really love the state of Florida for its natural wildlife. I hear the inside joke in Florida is everyone is crazy. But yeah, its natural wonders are absolutely stunning. And I wanted to do a little spin on that. Right. Has my throat recovered? New tattoo? Is it this one? I've had this for a few years. I got my last tattoos in Florida, so that would have been 2 years ago. God, it's been a while. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Just trying to find stories. Try fighting endangered Native Americans in the freaking Everglades of all places. What? Oh, to resist removal. Good on them. Good on them. So many strangely named stories here. And strangely long stories for what their title is. The Crab Spider. What? I don't really frequent the Discord too much. Part of me is kind of put off after hearing all these things about creators that form parasocial relationships with their viewers, and I don't want to do that. I just don't think it's healthy. I think the next charity I want to sponsor is a mental health charity, because mental health is nowhere near as respected as physical health and things, and I think more people need to understand how important it is. It's also just hard for me to keep up with. Like, I do this, but I also do freelance narration work, and I'm still waiting to be paid for my audiobooks that I've put on Audible, which is annoying, very, very annoying, considering how much time's gone into that. And I'm also reapplying for another part-time job, just because, like, it's rough out there, guys. It's tough. So gotta make bread wherever I can. But it is what it is. I'm not in a terrible place, so that's good. And I'm fairly content with life right now. But yeah, I don't go on it too much. I haven't been on there for a long time, to be fair. It's hard to keep up with. They do go hand in hand, I completely agree. Charles Dickens? Charles Dickens did horror stories? My goodness. All these stories are long as sin. Okay, here's one by Charles Dickens that isn't that long. Hopefully, it's not bad either. Oh yeah, the predators in Discord, the bloody weirdos. Like, up until my friends migrated from TeamSpeak to Discord, I'd never used it. And I had made that years ago, that Discord server, just so people could interact with each other and maybe form a type of community around the channel. But I'm just not made to keep up with that sort of thing. It's very difficult for me. But I hope you guys are able to use it and make use of it. And I will try more to interact, but it is difficult. I'm just going over it. Anyway, back into another story. Hey guys, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And also, if you want to suggest just like even something silly for me to read and do different accents, I'm more than happy to do that as well. It's a fun thing to do. And remember, donations? Their suggestions are more likely to be taken. Anyway, this is by Charles Dickens, A Child's Dream of a Star. I feel like I'm constantly leaning into the microphone, so I'm just going to move it back. Screw it. Oh, sorry, Sooty. There was once a child, and he strolled about a good deal, and thought of a number of things. He had a sister, who was a child too, and his constant companion. These two used to wander all day long. They wondered at the beauty of the flowers. They wondered at the height and blueness of the sky. They wondered at the depth of the bright water. They wondered at the goodness and the power of God who made the world lovely. They used to say to one another sometimes, supposing all the children upon earth were to die, would the flowers and the water and the sky be sorry? They believed they would be sorry. For, said they, the buds are the children of the flowers, and the little playful streams that gambol down the hillsides are the children of the water, and the smallest bright specks playing at hide and seek in the sky all night must surely be the children of the stars, and they would all be grieved to see their playmates, the children of men, no more. There was one clear shining star that used to come out in the sky before the rest, near the church spire, above the graves. It was larger and more beautiful, they thought, than all the others, and every night they watched for it, standing hand in hand at the window. Whoever saw it first cried out, "I see the star!" And often they cried out both together, knowing so well when it would rise and where. So they grew to be such good friends with it, that, before lying down in their beds, they always looked out once again to bid it good night, and when they were turning around to sleep, they used to say, "God bless the star." But whilst she was very young still, oh, very, very young, the sister drooped, and came to be so weak that she could no longer stand in the window at night. And then the child looked sadly out by himself, and when he saw the star, turned round and said to the patient pale face on the bed, "I see the star!" And then a smile would come upon her face, and the little weak voice used to say, "God bless my brother and the star." And so the time came all too soon, when the child looked out alone, and when there was no face on the bed, and when there was a little grave among the graves, not there before, and when the star made long rays down towards him, as he saw it through his tears. Now these rays were so bright, and they seemed to make such a shining way from earth to heaven, that when the child went to his solitary bed, he dreamed about the star, and dreamed that, lying where he was, he saw a train of people taken up that sparkling road by angels, and the star, opening, showed him a great world of light, where many more such angels awaited to receive them. All these angels who were waiting turned their beaming eyes upon the people who were carried up into the star, and some came from the long rows in which they stood, and fell upon the people's necks and kissed them tenderly, and went away with them down avenues of light, and were so happy in their ceremony that lying in his bed he wept for joy. But there were many angels who did not go with them, and among them one he knew. The patient face that had once lain upon the bed was glorified and radiant, but his heart found out his sister among all of the hosts. His sister's angel lingered near the entrance of the star, and said to the leader amongst those who had brought the people hither, "Is my brother to come?" And he said no. She was turning away. She was turning hopefully away, when the child stretched out his arms and cried, "Oh, sister, I am here! Take me!" And then she turned her beaming eyes upon him, and it was night, and the star was shining into the room, making long rays down towards him as he saw it through his tears. From that hour forth the child looked out upon the star as on the home he was to go to, when his time should come, and he thought that he did not belong to the earth alone, but to the star too, because of his sister's angel gone before. There was a baby to be born to the child. There was a baby born to be a brother to the child. Thank fucking God that was. And while he was so little that he never yet had spoken a word, he stretched his tiny form out of his bed and died. Again the child dreamed of the open star, and of the company of angels, and the train of people, and the rows of angels with their beaming eyes all turned upon the people's faces. Said his sister's angel to the leader, "Is my brother coming?" And he said, "Not that one, but another." As the child beheld his brother's angel in her arms, he cried, "Oh, sister, I am here, take me!" And she turned and smiled upon him, and the star was shining. He grew to be a young man, and was busy with his books, when an old servant came to him and said, "Thy mother is no more. I bring her blessing to her darling son." Again at night he saw the star, and all that former company. Said his sister's angel to the leader, "Is my brother to come?" He said, "Thy mother!" A mighty cry of joy went forth through all the star, because the mother was reunited to her two children, and he stretched out his arms and cried, "Oh, mother, sister, brother, I am here, take me!" And they answered him, "Not yet." And the star was shining. He grew to be a man, whose hair was turning grey, and he was sitting in his chair by the fireside, heavy with grief, and with his face bedewed with tears, when the star opened once again. Said his sister's angel to the leader, "Is my brother to come?" And he said nay, but his maiden daughter. And the man who had been the child saw his daughter nearly lost to him, a celestial creature among those three, and he said, "My daughter's head is on my sister's bosom, and her arm is around my mother's neck, and at her feet is the baby of old time, and I can bear the parting from her. God be praised." And the star was shining. Thus the child came to be an old man, and his once smooth face was wrinkled, and his steps were feeble and slow, and his back was bent. And one night, as he lay upon his bed, his children standing round, he cried, as he cried so long ago, "I see the star." They whispered one another, "He is dying." And he said, "I am. My age is falling from me like a garment, and I move towards the star as a child. And, oh, my Father, now I thank thee that it has so often opened to receive those dear ones who await me." And the star was shining, and it shines upon his grave. Okay, that was interesting. It was different, kind of beautiful in its own right. What have y'all been talking about? There's a link to the charity in the description. Don't donate with super chats, I don't think. Oh. Really? Okay, because every time I've done a stream, I tally up the money that's been offered or put through the super chats, and I just, whatever it says I got, what you put in, that's what I donate. Huh. Hopefully YouTube doesn't touch any of it. Hopefully they're just like, yeah, the ads. Hopefully they don't. I mean, either way, charity's getting it. Whether it's from both of us or just you guys, either way. As long as they get the money, this is important. But, that's all good, man. Don't worry. As long as they get it. Oh, that is a long poem. Mineralogy. Huh. That doesn't make any sense to me. How are they... Oh, well. I'll still donate whatever comes through. Whatever I assume is it. So, not that story. Whew, so warm. But yeah, if that's the case, Dexter, and anyone watching, just please go directly to the charity page, which is in the description, because we want to make sure that it's the charity that gets it, not greedy YouTube. It's greedy, greedy, greedy boys and girls. Do you guys want to hear a story by Mark Twain? Not a massive fan of Mark Twain. He hated coyotes with a burning passion. And, like, hating an animal, it's an animal. It's like, it's not malicious. And one of the ironic things in my mind is that a lot of these people from back then, and even today, like, oh, I hate wolves, I hate coyotes. Like, they're often religious people as well, but they want to wipe out an animal that in their mind was made by God. I'm not a religious person myself, but it just seems illogical to me. And they're often spouting all this, like, bullcrap to try and get them eradicated from the area, and it's so stupid. And I think Mark Twain was one of those people. Not a fan. Oh, he throws the N-word around? Hold on one sec. Good news, everyone! He doesn't in this one. Good news. Fantastic. This is called A Ghost Story by Mark Twain. Yeah, you can be scared of something and not hate them. I think they are... they can be mutually exclusive. I am scared of heights. But I don't think the sky should be destroyed. That's a terrible analogy. Never mind. Anyway. Throat's getting a little... Oh. I took a large room, far up Broadway, in a huge old building whose upper stories had been wholly unoccupied for years, until I came. The place had long been given up to the dust and cobwebs, to solitude and silence. It seemed, groping amongst the tombs and invading the privacy of the dead. That first night I climbed up to my quarters. For the first time in my life, a superstitious dread came over me, and as I turned a dark angle of the stairway and an invisible cobway swung its slazy woof in my face and clung there. I shuddered as one who had encountered a phantom. I was glad enough when I reached my room and locked out the mold and the darkness. A cheery fire was burning in the grate, and I sat down before it with a comforting sense of relief. For 2 hours I sat there, thinking of bygone times, recalling old scenes, and summoning half-forgotten faces out of the mist of the past. Listening, in fancy, to voices that long ago grew silent for all time, to once familiar songs that nobody sings now, and to my reverie, softened down to a sadder and sadder pathos. The shrieking of the winds outside softened to a wail, and the angry beating of the rain against the panes diminished to a tranquil patter. And one by one, the noises in the street subsided, until the hurrying footsteps of the last bladed straggler died away in the distance and left no sound behind. The fire burned low. The sense of loneliness crept over me. I arose and undressed, moving on tiptoe about the room, doing stealthily what I had to do, as if I were environed by sleeping enemies whose slumber it would be fatal to break. I covered up in bed and lay listening to the rain and the wind and the faint creaking of distant shutters, till they lulled me into sleep. I slept profoundly, but how long I did not know. All at once I found myself awake and filled with a shuddering expectancy. All was still, all but my own heartbeat. I could hear it beat. Presently, the bedclothes began to slip away slowly toward the foot of the bed, as if someone were pulling them. I could not stir. I could not speak. Still the blankets slipped away deliberately, till my breast was uncovered. A breast was uncovered, just the one. Then with a great effort I seized them and drew them over my head. I waited. Listened, waited. Once more that steady pull began, and once more I lay torpid, a century of dragging seconds till my breast was naked again. At last I roused my energies and snatched the covers back to their place and held them with a strong grip. I waited. By and by I felt a faint tug. I took a fresh grip. The tug strengthened to a steady strain. It grew stronger and stronger. My hold parted, and for the third time the blanket slipped away. I groaned. An answering groan came from the foot of the bed. Beady drops of sweat stood upon my forehead. I was more dead than alive. Presently, I heard a heavy footstep in my bedroom. The step of an elephant, it seemed to me. They're actually quite quiet when they walk around, elephants. That's why you barely hear them. It was not like anything human, but it was moving from me. There was relief in that. I heard it approach the door, pass out without moving a bolt or lock, and wander away among the dismal corridors, straining the floors and joists till they creaked again as it passed, and then silence reigned once more. When my excitement had calmed, I said to myself, "This is a dream. Simply a hideous dream." And so I lay thinking it over until I convinced myself that it was a dream. And then a comforting laugh relaxed my lips, and I was happy once again. I got up and struck a light, and when I found that the locks and bolts were just as I had left them, another soothing laugh welled in my heart and ripped from my lips. I took my pipe and lit it. I was just about sitting down before the fire when down went the pipe out of my nerveless fingers. The blood forsook my cheeks, and my placid breathing was cut short with a gasp. In the ashes of the hearth, side by side with my own bare footprints, was another, so vast that in comparison mine was just but an infant's. Then I had a visitor, and the elephant's tread was explained. Okay, this is a lot longer than I thought. I'm going to go back to my normal reading voice because I think I'm kind of screwing this up. Oh, message retracted. What did Alex say? Sorry, then. I put out the light and returned to bed. Palsied with fear, I lay a long time peering into the darkness and listening. Then I heard a grating noise overhead, like the dragging of a heavy body across the floor. Then the throwing down of the body and the shaking of my windows in response to the concussion. In distant parts of the building I heard muffled slamming of doors. I heard, at intervals, stealthy footsteps creeping in and out among the corridors and up and down the stairs. Sometimes these noises approached my door, hesitated, and went away again. I heard the clanking of chains faintly in remote passages, and listened whilst the clanking grew nearer, while it warily climbed the stairways, marking each move by the loose surplus of chains that fell with an accented rattle upon each succeeding step as the goblin that bore it advanced. I heard muttered sentences, half-uttered screams that seemed smothered violently, and the swish of invisible garments, the rush of invisible wings. Then I became conscious that my chamber was invaded, that I was not alone. I heard sighs and breathings about my bed, and mysterious whisperings. 3 little spheres of soft, phosphorescent light appeared on the ceiling directly over my head, clung and glowed there at a moment, and then dropped. 2 of them upon my face and 1 upon the pillow. They spattered, liquidly, and felt warm. Intuition told me they had turned to gouts of blood as they fell. I needed no light to satisfy myself of that. Then I saw pallid faces, dimly luminous, and white uplifted hands, floating bodiless in the air, floating a moment and then disappearing. The whispering ceased, and the voices and the sounds and the solemn stillness followed. I waited and listened. I felt that I must have light or die. I was weak with fear. I slowly raised myself toward a sitting posture, and my face came in contact with a clammy hand. All strength went from me apparently, and I fell back like a stricken invalid. Then I heard the rustle of a garment. It seemed to pass to the door and go out. When everything was still once more, I crept out of bed, sick and feeble, and lit the gas with one hand that trembled as if it were aged 100 years. The light brought some little cheer to my spirits. I sat down and fell into a dreamy contemplation of that great footprint in the ashes. By and by its outline began to waver and grow dim. I glanced up, and the broad gas flame was slowly wilting away. In the same moment, I heard the elephantine tread again. I noted its approach, nearer and nearer along the musty halls, and dimmer the light waned. The tread reached my very door and paused. The light had dwindled to a sickly blue, and all things about me lay in a spectral twilight. The door did not open, and yet I felt a faint gust of air, and presently was conscious of a huge cloudy presence before me. I watched it with fascinated eyes. A pale glow stole over that thing. Gradually its cloudy folds took shape. An arm appeared, then legs, then a body, and at last a great sad face looked out of the vapour, stripped of its filmy housings, naked, muscular, and comely. The majestic Cardiff giant loomed over me. All my misery vanished, for a child might know that no harm could come with that benignant countenance. My cheerful spirits returned at once, and in symphony with them the gas flamed up brightly again. Never a lonely outcast was so glad to welcome a company as I was to greet that friendly giant. I said, "Why is it nobody but you? Do you know? I have been scared to death for the last 2 or 3 hours. I am most honestly glad to see you. I wish I had a chair. Here, don't try to sit down in that thing." But it was too late. He was in that before I could stop him, and down he went. I never saw a chair shivered so in my life. Stop, you'll ruin it. Too late. Again. There was another crash, and another chair was resolved into its original elements. Confound it, haven't you got any judgment at all? Do you want to ruin all the furniture on the place? Here, you petrified fool. But there was no use. Before I could arrest him, he had sat down on the bed, and it was a melancholy ruin. Sorry, just checking this. I'm really messing up with this, and I'm getting really hot in this room. I think I'm going to have to finish after this one. I am getting very sweaty and hot. I think my girlfriend has left the heating on completely, and I am dying. I love her very much, but... Now what sort of way is that to do? First you come in lumbering about the place, bringing a legion of vagabond goblins along with you to worry me to death. And then, when I overlook an indelicacy of costume which would not be tolerated anywhere by cultivated people except in a respectable theatre, and not even there in the nudity were of your sex, you repay me by wrecking all the furniture you can. And why will you? You damage yourself as much as you do me. You have broken off the end of your spinal column and littered up the floor with your chips of your hams till the place looks like marble in a yard. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You are big enough to know better. Well, I will not break any more furniture. But what am I to do? I have not a chance to sit down for a century. And the tears came into his eyes. Poor devil, I said. I should not have been so harsh with you. And you are an orphan too, no doubt. But sit down on the floor. Nothing else can stand your weight. And besides, we cannot be sociable with you away up there above me. I'm going to kneel as well. Chair's too hot. Nothing else can stand your weight. Nothing else can stand your weight. And besides, we cannot be sociable with you away up there above me. I want you down here, where I can perch on this high-counted house stool and gossip with you face to face. So he sat down on the floor and lit a pipe which I gave him, threw one of my red blankets over his shoulders, inverted my sitz bath on his head, helmet fashion, and made myself picturesque and comfortable. Then he crossed his ankles, while I renewed the fire and exposed the flat honeycomb bottoms of his prodigious feet to the grateful warmth. What's the matter with the bottom of your feet and the back of your legs? Are they that gouged up so? Infernal. I forgot his name. Voice already. Infernal chilblains, I called them, clear up to the back of my head, roosting out of the under Newell's farm. But I love the place, and I love it as one loves his old home. There is no peace for me like the peace I feel when I'm there. We talked along for half an hour, and then I noticed that he looked tired and spoke of it. Tired. I'm opening this door. Tired, he said. Well, I should think so. And now I will tell you all about it, since you have treated me so well. I am the spirit of the petrified man that lies across the street in the museum. I am the ghost of the Cardiff giant, and I can no longer rest. I know no peace till they have given that poor body burial again. Now, what was the most natural thing for me to do to make men satisfy this wish, terrify them into it, haunt the place where the body lay? So I haunted the museum night after night. I even got other spirits to help me, but it did no good, for nobody ever came to the museum at midnight. Then it occurred me to come over the way and haunt this place. I felt that if I ever got a hearing, I must succeed, for I had the most efficient company that perdition could furnish. Night after night, we have shivered around through these mildewed halls, dragged chains, groaning, whispering, trampling up and down the stairs, till, to tell you the truth, I'm almost worn out. But when I saw the light on in your room tonight, I roused my energies, and I went at it with a deal of the old freshness. But I am tired out, entirely... I don't know that word. It sounds like a slur, so I'm not going to say it. Entirely effed out. Give me, I beseech you, give me some hope. I lit off my perch in the burst of excitement and exclaimed, this transcended everything that ever did occur. Why, you poor blundering old fossil. You have had all your trouble for nothing. You've been haunting a plaster cast of yourself. The real Cardiff giant is in Albany, confounded. You don't know your own remains? I never such saw an eloquent look of shame, of pitiable humiliation, overspread a countenance before. The petrified man rose slowly to his feet and said, Honestly, is that true? As true as I am sitting here. He took the pipe from his mouth and laid it on the mantel, then stood irresolute a moment, unconsciously, from old habit, thrusting his hands where his pantaloon pocket should have been, and meditatively dropping his chin on his breast, finally said, Well, I never felt so absurd before. The petrified man has sold everybody else, and now the mean's fraud has ended by selling its own ghosts. My son, if there is any charity left in your heart for a poor, friendless phantom like me, don't let this out. Think how you would feel if you had made such an ass of yourself. I heard his stately tramp die away, step by step down the stairs and out into the deserted street, and felt sorry that he was gone. Poor fellow. And sorrier still that he carried off my red blanket and my bathtub. Mark Twain. Interesting story. And I think I'm going to have to call it there, guys, because I am really struggling to read right now. I think I need to think of a better way to do streams, because live readings, I guess I'm really not the best at them. Well, not I guess. I know I'm not very good at them. Especially when it gets this late. I get very hot. I get very tired. Well, it's definitely hot because the heating's on. But I'm also just like very warm-blooded too, so that doesn't help. Would people be interested in me playing video games? I'm not the biggest gamer, but I am a big coward when it comes to video games. Maybe I could live stream from my phone and go on a little adventure outside. But these are things for the future, worries for the future. Que sera? But anyway, I want to thank you all very much for coming to the stream, and to everyone that watched, liked, shared, donated via the stream, or donated via the link in the description. This has been very, very nice of you all. You're awesome for joining, you're awesome for being here, and awesome for spreading awareness of this vital cause. Again, this has been the stream for the Harm Reduction International charity. You want to learn more about them, there is a link in the description to their page. I am going to collapse into my bed and hopefully have a good night's sleep. I need one. But yeah, stay tuned. Planes are loud here. I don't know if you can hear that. It's ridiculous. Stay tuned to the post section of the YouTube channel, where I will post the receipt for the donations. I just have to tally stuff up and then donate them. But before I go, hey, no, go. Okay, not you. You. There's a beetle. It's a scarab. The jewel beetle. Just wanted to show you it. It's a fruit beetle. Scarabs are a big family. Dung beetles are a type of scarab. This is a yellow fruit beetle. Fun fact. I tried getting one of my cockroaches instead, but unfortunately they are very fast and they don't like me. Anyway, have a good rest of your evening and a good rest of your lives. Signing out. Thank you for coming. Wasn't a long stream, but we did good, and good is good.